Hello, Tanya here with another tutorial. So we are going to go over essentially the legging block and how to sew it with a little bit of a variation because we are going to build this with a tennis skirt. So it's going to be a little bit of a skirt tutorial, but the method to sewing the shorts will be almost identical to sewing a pair of leggings, minus slight variations in the waistband and essentially side seams and front seams. So you're going to want to cut out all your pieces, and since we're doing that variation, we're going to put a drawstring in the side seams to make these super cute sporty looking shorts. I'm cutting out some 1.5 inch straps here, which will be our drawstrings. That won't apply for just regular leggings, but yes. And so we have our front pieces and our waistband, and then we have our two back pieces and our waistband. So if you were doing leggings, you would probably be cutting out two pieces of the waistband, but because we're doing a short and we're going to be sewing it as a skirt, we don't have to finish the top of the waistband because it's going to be attached to the rest of the dress and skirt. So you see my drawstrings. Okay, now that we have our front pieces and our back pieces, I lost some footage. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put our two front pieces together, and with the crotch seam, we are going to put right sides together, and we're just going to sew that crotch curve on both the front and the back. And after I've sewed it, I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do in the rest of the clips, but I then use a 3-thread cover stitch to cover stitch down the serge seams, so you have that really nice like faux flat lock look that you would see in athleisure. After you've sewn your crotch seams together, you're going to want to put the waistband right sides together. So you see I'm laying it up as you would see when it's finished sewing, and then I'm just going to fold it onto each other so it's right sides together, and then you're just going to match the waistband with that seam line, and then you're gonna sew your waistband on. So like I mentioned before, because this is going to be part of a skirt, you may do the construction a little bit different if you're sewing leggings that are standalone versus something that's going to be attached to a dress. But this is still a great construction process. So yeah, we're gonna sew on our waistband, and then we're going to top stitch that down with a 3 threads cover stitch. If you don't have that, it's all good. So off to the serger we go. And yeah, so we're gonna serge on our waistband to our leg panels, and then I'm gonna show you how to top stitch this down if you do have a 3-thread cover stitch. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the cover stitch, and you might be able to do this also with a sewing machine. So you see the white fabric under the presser foot? That's gonna be my leader fabric to make sure that my fabric doesn't get eaten up by the presser foot. So I'm going to set that up. You sew a couple stitches until the leader fabric is kind of at where your needles are. Then you're going to raise the presser foot and then put your seam under. Now you see that the serge seam is the one that's going to be facing the needles. We're going to be stitching that down. So that is 1/4 inch. We want to aim for the left section of the seam to match up with our left needle, so that way everything gets captured and sewn down. So essentially you're just going to have to practice sewing straight and aiming for that left needle. So here I'm just sewing down that seam, and it's going to lay nice and flat if you catch the entire serge seam. You can do this, you could have that seam on the inside or the outside, so it's really your preference and dependent on your sewing abilities. In terms of performance, it will probably feel a lot more comfortable to have that serged seam that you're top stitching down on the outside of the garment, because the inside will lay a lot more flat. But it depends what you have in your sewing room, and also it's not a requirement. So if you do not have a cover stitch or a sewing machine where you can top stitch down your seam, you can just have your seams on the inside of the garment. Now we have the waistband attached to our front piece. And then we have the waistband attached to our back piece. Like I mentioned, this might be different if you're sewing standalone leggings, because the waistband can be a little bit different because you're gonna have to finish that top seam. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the back and front panel right sides together, and then we're gonna sew that across our inseam there. We're going to just serge that on up, and then we're also going to do what the technique from before. We're going to top stitch down if you have a cover stitch machine, or if you have a sewing machine, we're going to just top stitch down that serged seam. And at that point, we have our side seams that are open and everything else is finished. So the next step is we're going to hem the bottom of our shorts. And I'm folding it over, I think, at 1/4 of an inch. Honestly, I wing this. But yeah, I fold it over 1/4 of an inch, and then I line up the edge of my seam with the edge of the presser foot. So this is very specific to my cover stitch machine, but hems can be anywhere from 1/2 an inch. I think that is the standard. So I'm folding it over 1/4 of an inch and then going from there. So just cover stitching that down. If you have a regular sewing machine, you can hem it that way. I know that there's a way to hem on a serger, and I don't know how to do that, but I think there is a way. And there we go. We have got our hem all sewed up. All right, great. So now we have our hem, we have our inseam sewn, and now we have to do our side seams. So I'm going to place it inside out, and we're going to go right sides together. And like I mentioned, we're doing that drawstring finish. So we are going to sew a straight stitch, a 1/2 an inch from the side seam. So make sure to add that for your seam allowance if you want to use this technique. But yeah, so I have my side seams pinned, and we're gonna sew that 1/2 inch from the side seam. All right, now that our side seams are sewn, you can see that we have that 1/2 inch. We're going to finger press it down, and then we're going to essentially sew along that edge, the two edges. So we're making 2 strap channels essentially. This would be so much easier if it was a woven instead of a stretch fabric, because we'd be able to press it. But yeah, we like a challenge. So you can see that my sewing isn't beautiful, but it's right on the edge, and we have 2 beautiful strap channels. So what we're gonna do next, and I lost the footage, so we're going to sew our straps, and then we're gonna just feed them into those strap channels. And then, as you can see, a little teaser for what's next, we're gonna sew this into a dress. But you're essentially taking one long strap, you're feeding it through from the bottom hem, and then up, looping it up around the top, and then feeding it back down the second channel. And then you'll be able to adjust your shorts, and it'll be a cute little drawstring effect. Please ignore all the dog hair that is on these black shorts, because I lost the footage. And this is the final look. It's a cute little sporty, it's adjustable. I actually designed it this way so I can make the shorts longer and pull them up if I want to look cute, versus having a biker short style because my thighs rub. Yeah, so if you found this helpful, please leave a comment. And if you haven't tried the legging block yet, highly recommend. I have another video on how to use the legging block pattern to create this pattern. So take a look at that and follow along with that tutorial before hopping into this one, or hop into this one either way, and subscribe.